There's no scientific explanation for this, by The Princess Rarity. Boredom, the silent killer. Any pony in Equestria who was swamped by the feeling knew how distasteful it was to just sit around, do nothing, and have no idea what to do in order to keep occupied. Now, sometimes it affected some ponies worse than others. And the god of chaos never had it. Ever. Until now. Discord had nothing to do at all. He had pranked Luna and Celestia, which caused him to almost get tossed in the dungeon, caused it to rain strawberry milk in the Crystal Empire because chocolate milk was now overrated, hypnotised some of the royal guards into thinking that they were trapped in a video game, which was quite amusing until he almost got hit with a sword, and scared a pack of high-class citizens with nothing but his presence in the town square. So now, he was sitting in his thinking tree, wondering what he could do next. There had to be something, anything. He would visit his dear friend Fluttershy, but she was off on another trip regarding her precious animals, and he'd hate to disturb her. So what could he do? After all, what with being limited to using his powers, there wasn't much to do. It was just such a shame that nothing was truly fun without a little chaos. But then, suddenly, it hit him, literally, as a piece of branch suddenly cracked off of his thinking tree, hitting him upside the head. The Draconequus brightened up. "Eureka!" he called, to no one in particular, and with that said, he snapped his talons, causing him to vanish in thin air. There was a certain sun pony he hadn't visited in quite some time. XOXO. It was a dreadful day in Ponyville. The clouds were a gloomy grey, rain sprinkled on and off all throughout the town, and thunder echoed practically for miles. While horrible weather reigned over, it was still peaceful in an odd sort of way. It was a sort of rainy day that ponies could sit inside and enjoy. And Twilight Sparkle was going to do just that. With no royal duties in the way, or any ponies coming into the library on this wicked day, she had decided to allow herself a break for once. Seeing how Spike was out helping Rarity yet again, and trapped at her place until the storm cleared, Twilight really did have a day all to herself, which was a bit of a rare occasion she was now going to cherish. She had brewed herself a pot of tea, had a stack of books for later, and was now going to cuddle up and watch a movie. While this sort of indoor entertainment and advanced technology was often only allowed in theatres for the citizens of Equestria, the privileges of being a princess meant having a few little extras now and then. Letting out a content sigh, Twilight levitated over the film reel and adjusted it into the projector, settling down into her seat as it began to play. The famous Disney castle lit up for the intro, which delighted her. Ah yes, a do-nothing day. They sure were nice. Levitating the mug to her lips, taking a sip of her tea, Twilight almost spit it out as she noticed a white flash of magic that certainly wasn't her own, and before her there was a certain sun pony splayed out next to her, or rather, some Draconequus. "Discord?" she asked in pure confusion. "Oh, hello, Princess Twilight," the spirit of disharmony replied, with a nonchalant wave of his lion paw, snatching a book from the stack she had set aside. "I had always pegged you for a Harry Trotter fan, you know." Twilight scoffed and rolled her eyes, using her magic to pause her film. "Why are you here?" she inquired. "Don't try to tell me you're sick again." Discord shook his head, beginning to skim through the books. No, I'm not here for that, he assured. Goodness gracious, you've got the whole series. I admit I've never read it, but... Discord, she declared. What are you here for? Nothing, he said simply, with a shrug. This baffled Twilight, and she raised an eyebrow. So, may I ask again, why are you here? She repeated. The Draconicus let out a huff. What? Am I not allowed to visit one of my friends whenever I feel like it? He questioned. No, but... And we are friends, aren't we? Twilight's expression fell flat, and she stammered over her words. Not this again. She rolled her eyes, releasing a deep breath. I suppose so, she muttered. While he had practically ruined Equestria, that was almost a year ago, and he had been reformed by Fluttershy for Pony's sake. Granted, from the outside, he hadn't changed much, but Twilight was never one to judge a book by its cover. Wonderful, Discord said with a smile. So, what are you doing? If you ruin my limited edition copies, Twilight grumbled as she eyed the Draconicus who was carelessly tossing her books about. Just to put her mind at ease, she magically snapped the books away from him and put them in a nearby drawer, locking it and putting a protection spell on it. Who knows, he might eat them. Well, that was rude, he commented, oddly enough smirking as he let out the statement. Holding back an exasperated sigh, Twilight nodded to the projector and managed a half-hearted smile. I'm going to watch a movie. If you'd like to join me, she said simply. Discord sat back, crossing one mismatched leg over the other, looking at the projector thoughtfully. So, this is the perks of being a princess, eh? He laughed. Ignoring his comment, she pressed play and kept her eyes on the bare wall that sufficed as her screen, happily watching each scene unfold. Despite Discord's antics, which involved him making obscene noises and letting out unnecessary groans or just acting like the child he was, Twilight was trying to enjoy the film. Emphasis on trying. The boastful antagonist hadn't even asked the intelligent heroine to marry him before Twilight finally spoke up. Could you please be quiet? She said between gritted teeth. He wasn't doing anything terribly wrong, but he was the spirit of disharmony and god of chaos. Just his aura around her was enough to set off any sort of trouble and annoyance. Discord scoffed and rolled his eyes. Always so quick to put the blame on me, he muttered. What are you... Just as the main character of the film began to sing the reprise of the intro song, which Twilight had unfortunately missed for the most part, another loud groan was heard, but not from Discord. The unspoken question was quickly answered, but as expected, it was far from a simple answer. Suddenly, a figure popped up from Discord's side, and of course, it had to something absurd. There was a sock with googly eyes on it, and a marker smile scribbled across. It was a sock puppet. He really was childish, wasn't it? Oh, come on! The puppet groaned, pretending to gag as it spoke in a shrill, sassy Manhattan accent. We're gonna watch this? Whatever happened to some bad flank explosions and plots, eh? Some Grand Theft Equestria would be good right now, and... The puppet was silenced as Twilight let out an annoyed grunt and yanked it off Discord's talon, tossing it across the room. With a mock gasp, the Draconicus turned away from the alicorn. How could you do that to Fabio? He accused. He was my only friend in this cruel world, and you killed him! It's a sock, she deadpanned. You're racist against socks, aren't you? Discord accused. Twilight raised an eyebrow and shook her head. No, I'm not racist, she muttered. I'm completely accepting of every and any pony, but I would appreciate it if you would be considerate enough to let me watch my movie in peace. She bit her tongue to prevent a comment regarding the fact that Discord probably didn't even know what peace was. Pouting, the Draconicus slumped down and refocused his attention on the film, as Twilight finally felt somewhat content despite the factor of who her companion of the day was. She'd just try to make the best of it. That was all. Why's that candlestick talking? The god of chaos suddenly asked. And, you know, that clock reminds me of you. I can't put my claw on it, but... You're the most chaotic being in all of Equestria and you're questioning a movie? She interrupted, now confused and completely puzzled. Discord chuckled and nodded. That's it, he continued. The cute little grumpy face. What? Twilight said slowly, as frustration melted away and she suddenly became bashful. The spirit of disharmony laughed, crossing his arms with his typical I'm up to something smirk. That face you make whenever you're mad at me, he pointed out. You're still doing it. I don't think it ever goes away whenever I'm around. He stroked his goatee in thought and arched an eyebrow. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. It isn't, she quickly argued. You're just... I'm what? He drawled, letting out a chuckle. Hilarious, ridiculously good looking. A hero? No! Twilight snapped and released a frustrated growl and bit her lip to prevent from saying something that she would most likely regret. But then again, his name wasn't Discord for nothing. He let out another laugh and he pointed at her, shaking his head playfully. Look at that, he observed. How adorable, you're blushing. I am not, the unicorn quickly lied. Despite her words, a light shade of crimson was indeed slowly spreading across her muzzle. With a victorious smile, the Draconicus nodded and tapped her on the head teasingly. Oh, you're just a silly pony, he teased. And the way you get all mad at me, it's quite entertaining. Twilight began stammering over her words, only before she released a frustrated groan. Why do you always do this? She questioned. I'm the creator of chaos, my dear, he said simply. Why wouldn't I is the better question. But with me especially, she debated. It's like you have a bone to pick with me. The way you're always teasing me and rubbing it in my face on how powerful you are, and you always purposely annoy me. It's just so... She continued to stutter, trying to find the right words to say, only before she met his gaze and melted, letting a defeated sigh slip past her lips. Twilight blinked slowly, throwing her hooves up in defense. What do you want from me? She said. With that, a moment of silence passed between the Draconicus and the Alicorn. Only before something shocking occurred. No pony would ever guess it or expect it, but right then and there, Discord leaned forward and took Twilight's face in his mismatched grasp, softly kissing her lips, which caused her to let out a surprised squeak. It was awkward and a bit clumsy, but still sweet. That is, until Twilight yanked away and gagged. What was that for? She shrieked. Discord shrugged. You wanted to know why I always teased you, he explained. The princess wrinkled her nose, shaking her head. No, she protested. No, that can't be it. This is another sick, twisted joke of yours, isn't it? You're playing with my feelings, aren't you? You have to be. However, for the first time ever, the god of chaos sported an almost scarily serious expression, one that actually seemed quite out of character for someone like himself. It shocked Twilight to no end. Get out, she practically growled, pointing her hoof to the door, and never come back. What did I do? He inquired. You're being you, she spat. It's driving me crazy. Discord scoffed and rolled his eyes. I can see it's not the way I expected, he muttered. Twilight merely twitched an eye, and she replied, Why in the wide, wide world of Equestria would I be in love with you? What's the better question is, why are you in love with me? The spirit of disharmony hesitated, raising a talon before he spoke up. I wouldn't say I'm in love with you, he corrected. That's going a bit far, although I won't deny I admire you. You're a talented soul, Twilight Sparkle, and I like your attitude. As fate would have it, I suppose I'm attracted to you. Now, he had said her name many times, but often it was when he was mocking her. But this time, it just sounded different, and Twilight wasn't sure if she liked it or not. Noticing that she was still stern and strict, Discord gave a small nod. Fine, he said in defeat. I'll see my way out. with a snap of his talons. He had produced a stick with a little knapsack tied to it and swung it over his back as he trudged to the door, about to exit, when her sweet and soft voice spoke up. "Wait." "Yes?" he inquired, looking back at her. For a moment the world seemed still as Twilight looked at him, with her lavender eyes sparkling and a bittersweet expression. She released a sigh. "You may be chaotic, mismatched, and altogether just plain crazy sometimes, but..." She bit her lip, only before continuing. "I believe in giving every one a chance. I suppose you have to be part of that list." Discord didn't smirk for once, like he always did when he won. This time, he genuinely smiled. Using her magic to rewind the movie she had temporarily forgotten, Twilight looked to him with a beckoning half smile. "Would you like to watch this movie with me?" she asked. I think we can relate to it." "What's it about?" Discord mused. "A young, intelligent mare finds the good in a beast who comes off as cruel," she said simply. The Draconicus smile only grew, and he gave a nod, returning back to his seat next to the princess. "I'm sure I'll enjoy it," he murmured, wrapping his talon around her figure. "You don't mind, do you?" A second passed where Twilight wanted to shrug him off, but instead, she decided to play along with the joke. "I don't kiss on the first date," she declared. "You've been on a date before?" he inquired. "Discord." "It was just a question." Rolling her eyes, Twilight couldn't help it, but she could have sworn that she too was slightly smiling. Maybe, just maybe, chaos wasn't so bad after all. La fin.
Baby, take my hand, hold it tight just like you do. Feels so good, so good.
Author's note: after watching the premiere of Three's a Crowd later that day, I caught an airing of Beauty and the Beast, which is one of my favourite Disney movies, and bam, disco light feels happened. I shipped this a bit, seeing how it's cute, so I decided to write this stupid thing. I don't know how equestrian technology works, I just made a guess on what I think of how movies and the such work. If you disagree with me, that's fine. Anyway, if you like this story, please upvote, comment, fave, or whatever it is you crazy kids do.